All right, let me know if you can hear me. All right, hi guys, I'm in the studio as you can tell, but I know there's a lot of echo because nobody's in here. We've cleaned everything out, so just say hi, let me know you can hear me. It might be a little echoey, but that's okay. We'll deal with it for today and then we'll work it out. Okay, cool, thank you, Jane. Yay, happy Friday. How's everybody doing? Feel free to talk, chat, chime in. Woo! So, we have a few things to talk about today. One is, I realized that a lot of you might not know, that about the story about BFREE and how it started. So I'm gonna talk to you about that. Then I'm gonna go over some details about opening, because we're opening on Monday, yay! And then I think that's it. And this afternoon, feel free to join me. There is a protest. We're meeting at the Wixon School in Dennis this afternoon. Starts at 3. Lots of parking there. We're going to march and then come back, and there's going to be a bunch of speakers, including myself. So I invite you to come to that this afternoon. That's what Jane's saying. She hopes the rains hold off. It seems like it's going to hold off, and that the storm's going to come in tonight. But we are on, rain or shine. That's kind of how you protest, right? You do what needs to be done in the weather that it needs to be done in. So bring what you need to bring. It's kind of cool, right? To do it with Mother Nature in that way. So, yeah, let me tell you a story. I was with my girl, Tamara, and a bunch of other of my friends. But she asked me a question that was pretty profound, and I figured this would be a really good way to share it. Since so I titled this session "New Beginnings," because that's kind of, I had new beginnings in my life when I started BFREE, and opening the studio on Monday is a new beginning. After having to shut this place down, which is, it's like, if you look at my logo, I'm just gonna back up. It's my favorite freaking thing in the whole wide world. It's so amazing. Every time I see it, I get really happy. So she asked me, like, what was that light bulb moment when you realized that, like, in your life you had really resonated with, this is the moment that I know, like, either what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, or something that you just knew was so true to yourself, your soul, and so you were going to pursue it as your passion in life no matter what. And what a cool dinner conversation, right? It wasn't just bullshit, which I just really appreciated, because I don't bullshit very well. So I ended up telling her the whole story of how BFREE came about, and I realized you might not know it, so I'm going to share it with you now. If you see the logo behind me, So the FREE stands for Find, Recover, Evolve, and Enjoy, which you might not know. And that sort of came out of, I was having a conversation with some of my friends a long time ago now, which, and Riva, the amazing massage therapist, asked me, how do you want to have people feel when they leave your studio? And I was like, free. And so that's how that word came about. And then I was like, I need an acronym to kind of describe what it is I'm actually doing here. So that became the find. So find yourself, you can't do anything without finding yourself first. Recover really just is letting go of anything that you don't need in your life anymore and just letting that go. So it doesn't have to be about recovery from addiction. People always think that that's the word. Recovery really just means being yourself and recovering from the person that you don't want to be and becoming the person that you do want to be, right? Evolving is, how do you do that? How the heck do you do that? People ask me that all the time, right? The way that you do that, in my opinion, is through movement and mindfulness. So that's how you evolve. And then really you have to just tap it into enjoying the rest of your fucking life. Why not? Yeah, right? So that's the brief description of actually the coaching model that I do, the 3 months coaching model. And so let me tell you about how that all came about. So as you guys know, I'm a person in recovery. And I went to rehab twice, went to detox twice. And the first time you really, go through any of those experiences, the first time is, I'm like a deer in headlights. Like, what the heck? You pretty much remove the alcohol or the system, the stuff out of your body, and then you're pretty much left with now what, right? So it really takes that long for the body to actually understand that you're removing all that stuff from your body. So the first time wasn't awesome. Not that it should be awesome, but it wasn't. Some people come out of rehab and they're like, oh, I'll see the pink light, and they're in AA and like, oh, it's so great, pink cloud, not pink light, whatever. So I ended up relapsing and I went back. And during that time I was in yoga teacher training and was becoming a yoga teacher because I had somehow learned along the way that for me, moving my body was the way to heal. I just hadn't figured it out completely yet. So I knew that becoming a yoga teacher was 1,000% the right thing to do. I just hadn't dealt with my own stuff quite yet. So I got to the second time in rehab, and I was gung-ho to shift whatever needed to be shifted, to break open and whatever needed to be done in order to move this addiction out of my body in the best way possible so that I could actually live a healthy life and just be happy. Like I was miserable. I don't imagine, right? Everyone's like, you miserable? No, I know, weird, right? Not anymore. I have days, I'm human. But it was totally different. So the second time I went to rehab, they have groups and they have different ways of dealing with stuff, but that none of that was working for me. I had tried AA, none of it. Sitting in a room and talking to people, it's hearing me being an empath and me being so energy driven and me taking on energy, like energy exchange is a huge thing for me. So being in a room with people that really are sharing these stories that's so dark and difficult, it was harder for me to then leave that room and then be excited about life. So it was actually making things worse for me. But that's just me. It doesn't mean AA is bad. It just means for me that actually was not working. But what was working was using my breath and letting go and moving my body. So here's what I did. I kind of bypassed all of the stuff. I kind of sort of went to groups sometimes, but not really, right? Is this public? Is this live? Wait, what? I had a therapist. I was diligent about that. But what I did instead was create my own program. And I knew because I was in such a safe space that if I was going to do this, what was the worst thing that was going to happen? Everyone was falling apart around me anyway, right? So I just had to figure out how to move that stuff out of my body. So I did. So what I did was check in with myself about the trauma that was impacting my life, that wasn't allowing me to live my life in a way that was allowing me to feel free. And so I had to write down what were the blocks, right? I'm not going to go through them all. You don't need to know them. The book is coming out soon, so you'll see all those blocks. You'll see they're written in really good detail about, sort of what those blocks were and what was happening. So I can just give you an example, right? So my mom, you've heard the story before. My mom was, addicted, and she was on the streets. And I know I say it like it's casual. It's not. But so the word that kept coming up for me was abandonment. And so what I would do is I would just put my mat on the floor in a room in rehab and write abandonment on a piece of paper. And I would get on my mat and I would breathe. And I would see what came up when I thought about abandonment. And I thought about it in myself, and I thought about it in the world, and I thought about how it might relate to my daughter, and how was that intersecting in my life during that time. And of course, I would start to cry. I would have images. I would have memories. And when that stuff happened, I just started to move my body, right? So I'd always start in child's pose and just kind of check in. And then a wave of emotion would come over me. And so after that, in order to just maintain it without getting super scary, right? This is what happens when we're trying to move through trauma. It's not like you have to go back. Not everyone has to go back this far. When I did the coaching model, I did it based on my experience, but I actually made it much lighter so that, no one has to go that deep back. I chose to, because I knew that if I didn't, there's no way I was going to move on. This is not the way for everybody. And in fact, if you have somebody else holding space for you, you really don't need to go back that far. Because if I can hold energy for that person, I can help them move out that stuff out of the body without them actually having to go super deep. What's more important is if you have a witness to whatever that emotion is, so that it's recognized and then it has permission to move out. So, I would do things like create my own yoga sequence around abandonment. Like, how is it that I want to feel when I think about that, right? So it's in my world, it's in my trauma, it's in my body. How can I make peace with it in a way that I can move through it, understand it, let it go, but know that it's a part of what is difficult for me in my life, right? So that's how I kind of went through things, right? So I made a sequence around, all this stuff that I was just dealing with. So abandonment was huge, trust was huge. Because my mom wasn't around for so long, I had difficulty trusting people. Relationships were huge, right? So I had to really go back and do all that work. And through doing all that work, I ended up having journals of information, like really incredible information. And I was lying almost right before I left rehab the second time, I was lying on my mat, like just crying it all out. And I had this moment of I can actually control my thoughts through my breath. And once I realized that, and once I did all that work, I realized I got to teach other people how to do this. This is a gift. I figured it out. I went through the muck. And then I looked back at the journals, and there was a beautiful coaching model written just like that, and boom. And I left rehab and I went back to yoga teacher training with this in mind, graduated yoga teacher training, got on a whole level of, let's do this. Let's open BFREE. So this studio is a year. Well, in June, it was a year. We're going to have a belated birthday party, I think, in August outside somewhere. The business has been around for 3 years. So I started just doing the individual coaching model, teaching everywhere else, partnering with other people for a while in between there, and then opened my own studio. And here we are. And then, of course, the first year of business, here we are in COVID. What? Right. So I just wanted to let you know that story. And I know I've talked about it in bits and pieces here. I've certainly written about it. But that's where the mission came from too. So the mission of BFREE is to help people change their lives through movement, mindfulness, and fun. And so I was thinking about, how to do all this. But I want to tell people is that when you really tap into something that's so alignment with your life, right? If you believe in the universe, it kind of just takes care of itself. So I was also telling my friend that, BFREE was born before I even got on that mat. The process started when I recognized the stuff I had to do for myself, right? This was actually not a hard process to open BFREE, right? And there's a lot of things that happened in between there that could have stopped me, including COVID. No, because this is the path that I'm on and I'm meant to be on. And it's the path that I'm meant to be on to share with you and the world. So it's just, let me not say it wasn't scary as a business owner going through COVID, and financially, oh my word, you have to get so creative and so, you talk about using your breath. It's like so wild. Yeah, wild. Oh my God, wild. Yeah, so all these new beginnings, it's just so cool that here we are again at another one, right? So Monday we get to open, and I'm so excited. And of course it's going to be different, but and for a while I will say that was really hard for me actually. And COVID, I understand, is super difficult, but it was like I had just created the space in which encouraged people to touch and love and hug and be really close. And then like everything with COVID is like, no, you're not going to do any of that. So it really, really challenged me to step out of my comfort zone and figure out how to have the same mission within this beautiful space of a studio that I have, that I love, that I just want to hug everyone in. And so, again, it's really about understanding what's happening and adapting, and then reworking with yourself what you need to do. So, I had to do, again, got on my mat, did some breath work, wrote down why this was hard, wrote down what was getting triggered in me about it, right? So that just helped the process of opening a little bit easier. So speaking of which, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So, and then we're shifting just ways of doing things, obviously nothing too drastic. We are going to try and do pop-ups outside. I'm looking at maybe doing a class in Hyannis for people that are out that way. I know everyone in Hyannis is like, I want to take your class, but you're so far away. It's only 15 minutes. I need to stop it. Hold on. No, but I'm going to try to do most stuff outside just because I need that comfort level. The studio, if you look, you're not here with me. Let me describe it for you. It's really, really open, okay? And what's nice is that I have a cross breeze. So I have 2 doors that open in the front, a door that opens in the back, and everything is super open. So there's not even anything that's going to get much stuff on it, and there's enough space to social distance. So it's actually a really nice space to come back to that is just super open, and it'll feel nice with the air and everything that is allowed in the studio. I also have AC for those of you that are worried about that, but we will have the air open so that there can be ventilation as well. And it's the same thing across the board that other people are doing, right? So making sure when we come in, there's hand sanitizer, there are cubbies that we put our stuff in. Obviously we're wearing masks, that whole thing. So it's different, and you'll have to sort of, air hug, right? There's no hugging. I know that like breaks my heart, but we'll get through it. And then just getting to your space in the studio for whatever class it is, right? And then bringing your own props is super important. So if you do forget something, we do have stuff at the studio, but staff will be in charge of getting that in and out for you, just so that we make sure that it's clean and wiped down and nothing, is transferred during that. So yeah, and one of the most important things is, so obviously we have limited class attendees, so make sure to sign up in advance for every single class. We cannot take drop-ins at this time. That's actually a pretty strict mandate across the board, which I think is smart, just so that people have information about, every class, what they're walking into, what the expectations are. We have moved from the software of Acuity to PunchPass. And I know these are all details that some of you are like, what? And just so it's up on the website. I'm in the process of redoing the whole website so that it's just more clean and updated for you. So it's coming, but you can sign up for classes right now. Please do so. You do have to make an account with PunchPass. Just so you know, it's not going to ask you for any money right away unless you're registering for a class. But if you do have a pass from BFREE from before, those will be honored, but we can't add them until you create that account, so then we can add it to your account. So you may need to purchase another pass up front, but we'll make sure those are all honored. If you're doing the 99 membership, sign up for account, and I will just go in and make sure that if you've already paid for that month, that will just be rolled over. So don't worry, it will all work out. What? Maureen, what's your question? Ask away. Oh yeah, so if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. If you have questions about the studio, I'm here. If you have questions about how BFREE started, feel free to ask me that. We got some cool workshops coming up. We're doing some stuff with the stand-up paddleboard. There's a series, so check that out too with Jenny. We're doing some collaborations around that, so that'll be fun. It's Restore on the water. Oh my God, it's like basically restorative yoga on the water. How cool is that? I cannot wait. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. And we are doing a kids class. What? So if you guys don't know Britt by rank, I know you do. She's so amazing. She owns Yoga Jamboree. And I can't imagine a better person to partner with doing a kids class during this time. I was a little hesitant because I know that social distancing for kids is hard, as it should be. Wearing masks is hard, as it should be for kids, right? But I think there's a way that I'm going to come in and do my dancing, and she's going to come in and do her yoga. And yeah, and we're going to, we can only have a certain amount of kids. So one person is registered already. So if you want a part of this kids program, bring it. It'll close when it closes. But yeah, kids 5 to 8, we will start with yoga, and then we will end with a pretty amazing dance session before Shavasana. So don't worry, y'all. We're going to chill your kids out before they leave. Don't worry. Don't worry. Few things you need to know about that, because we don't want a lot of bodies in here that don't need to be in their bodies. We are going to stand out there with a clipboard and check your kids in. Most of that class is going to happen outside. We will start inside just to let them know the expectations, to make sure it's super, super clear. And then we're going to head out back. I do have a backspace that I have a tent, and we'll get those kids outside doing some really cool stuff. And in case you're wondering, we are all aware that kids have been in COVID for a really long time, and it might take some effort to help them to socialize with each other again. I can't think of a better person to do that with than Britt and myself. So, you know, that's what we're here for. I got a lot of skills in that, and so does Britt. So I'm pretty psyched. I'm just psyched to see kids be free and smile and do things together. That'd be really great. Oh, Maureen, yes. Oh, you had a few questions. Yeah, you're thinking, yeah, it's really just about creating the account in PunchPass first. Sorry, I switched. I was answering Maureen's question. And then it's easier for me then to go in there and add and roll everything over. It's harder. The system won't recognize you if you're not in there already. So that's just, it makes it easier. But we'll work it out. You know, when you switch software systems, you think it's like so easy, like you can go like this and it's like, woo! No. Even though PunchPass is great, and the Acuity is certainly manageable and also great, it's like, you know, it's a cross. It takes some time. So, but everything will be honored. So don't worry about that. We'll work it out. Change has kinks, you guys, right? Oh, speaking of, here's something I want to say just about that in general. The businesses that are opening, particularly yoga studios that are now allowed to open, and other businesses. So I just caution you to be really thoughtful when participating in all of these things, because I think what sometimes gets missed is that us as business owners, are not experts at COVID, because how on earth would we be? And we are following the guidelines as best we can, but we also need to adapt those for our own businesses. That makes the most sense for us, and that keeps people safe, right? So it may look a little different across the board. So I just want to put that out there, because it's just hard. Like, it's hard to do this in a pandemic. And it's, it's totally like, it's different, and we're going to adapt as we go along. So I'll be able to tell the first week, like, oh, that's not working, right? And we just adapt. So, oh, Maureen, yeah, I wouldn't say that to you. I'm just saying in general, like, I've been places where I've just overheard people like, oh my gosh, how come they're not doing this, and how come they're not doing that, and that place does this, and that place doesn't do that. It don't matter, right? You keep yourself safe. You do what you need to do, and as long as we're social distancing and working with the mask, keeping the mask on, washing your hands. Let's do a song about washing your hands. There's the key, guys. It's always been the key. It's always been the thing. Wash your hands, right? So I know that's going to be in people's minds, but I would rather that that we are all working together in the best way possible, and that the energy that you're going to then create in the studio is the same energy, right? So you came in knowing this was a loving space before. You came in being like, I know that Ayanna's going to take care of me on an emotional level, on an energy level, physical safe body space level. That is still there. That is still there. And in fact, it's even more, because I have Mindful Marketing working with me. Her name is Melissa Saunders, and she's been helping to make sure that all those little pieces, just because I'm so busy, aren't getting missed, right? Because I'm one person. So I'm just so thankful that she's now joined the BFREE team, and she is just working diligently to make sure that, Punch Pass is all set, that what classes are coming up, and we all work together on this. So that's very exciting. So what else we got going on? Any other questions? I'm so excited to see you in person. Yeah, the work with children is so important. Yeah. I mean, my poor kid, Lord. I don't know if you guys are. I thought for some reason that the summer would be easier than the, online learning thing, but I think it took her brain that long to kind of understand, like, whoa, I've now been out of school for 3 months, and I'm still not at any kind of regular schedule. And so I think recently is when she's kind of lost a lot of her grounding. And I imagine other kids feel the same way, because if kids are used to going to camp, that is a really, really fun time. I mean, it's super fun. You have all these kids to play with. You do, all these activities, and you have people that, young kids, and hang out with you and give you attention. So I just feel for kids right now. And we can talk later about school and what that looks like. As long as this one class goes well at BFREE, we will certainly add more, because the movement for the kids is vital for survival, for their little mental health, their beings, right? My fear is that, when you create isolation and places for kids to be alone, and mental health stuff comes up, that is the perfect recipe to become an addict later on in life. I'm not saying that this is exactly the path that everyone's going down, but I'm saying this is how it starts, right? So, if you can have your kids safely in some place that makes you feel okay, I encourage it. Kids need kids. Obviously do what works for you and your family to make yourself feel safe, but it does make me super nervous, just what's happening in terms of isolation with children. It's scary, right? The mental health we're going to see, even for adults, we're going to see a long-term effects of this. All right, a couple more updates. This is stuff that's coming down the line, but just so you have it in your brain. So the coaching model, I am still doing coaching, but I am also adding insurance so that in a few months I will be able to take insurance for therapy, not coaching, but for therapy. But I will integrate all of the mindfulness practices in there. It's just not going to be the 3-month intensive model. It would just be clinical therapy with movement and mindfulness integrated. Yeah, read between the lines there. So that will be happening. That is really good because what I realized was, during COVID, so many people asked to do therapy with me, and I was giving a lot of it away for free, but it was just so hard because people didn't have money, and I get it. And a lot of people were laid off, and a lot of families were just desperate for money, and so I started that process. But it takes a while, like anything else, but it will happen. Yeah, here's the deal with the nonprofit too. So I started the process. So exciting, right? We got recognized in Massachusetts. We were on our way to do the whole other piece of it, which is get the 501(c)(3). And COVID hit. So I paused it just because I needed to make sure if that made sense, how that made sense, what we were looking at in terms of a board, and what the goal was, our mission is always the same, but for the nonprofit, how is that going to work? Are we going to have a studio? Does it need to be online? So I just paused it. So it doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means it's in an evolution stage. What we are moving towards, I believe, is more of maintaining the business, but developing a foundation for people that need to access BFREE that may not be able to. And that will include all of this love and revolution stuff that I've been doing to make yoga more accessible to people of color, and just working on some anti-racism workshops and consulting and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to allow me to open that up in a broader sense, but that the actual BFREE business will remain. So I know things just keep changing. What? But it's kind of cool, right? Because I'm not sure that was the right way to go. So hey, it's kind of cool. So did you know I'm writing a book? I know. When do I have time to do that? Somebody said that in their head. I heard you. Or maybe it was just my head. How do I have time to do that? I'll tell you why. Because my story needs to be heard. So I find time. Anything that's a priority in your life, you find time to do. Let me tell you. If you find it important, you will find the time, right? And the universe will match that all the time, right? So here's what happened. I was telling Britt this yesterday. I've been writing the book for about a year, and I have some help. So I have an editor that's been doing it with me. And I was in my head just getting frustrated because, again, I wasn't finding the time, right? I had written a lot. I had met with her a lot, but it felt hard. It felt choppy. It didn't feel like, and I was like, maybe it's just not the right time. I'm not sure. And then, so I kind of paused it. I kind of just surrendered to, there's no rush. There's no rush to get my story out. I can share it on here. I can share it however I want, right? And then, of course, right after that happened, I had a wave of energy to write, sent it to my editor. She had a wave of energy to write and help. And so we are halfway there. What? How did that happen? Oh my God, out of nowhere. What? It's not out of nowhere. I surrendered to the universe saying this will happen in the right time. I'm ready to just release and let it be. And there it started to just happen naturally. And then it doesn't feel like such a struggle. It just feels like, oh, this is fun again. This is like, yay, right? So I had a meeting with her. We've mapped out a timeline, and I am pretty confident that this thing is going to come out in by January 1st, 2021. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to have stages in which certain things will come out, and you can pre-order and all that kind of stuff. So just keep that. That will be on the agenda. Last thing, what? So because I designed this model that's so amazing, I think it's amazing. I know that you might not. No, you do. And I'm the only one that designed it. I often get full, so I often can only take a certain amount of people for coaching. But what I'm going to do as part of fixing that problem, which is going to be so exciting, is to design a BFREE coaching training. So if you are interested in being a BFREE coach, how cool is that? Oh my God, you can do that. So the training will take me a little while to get together, but that will actually also be rolled out in 2021 in January. So don't have the dates yet, but we are working on it, and it's gonna happen. So that's kind of really, really cool. And I'm so excited to teach people like what I've learned and how I learned it, and watch other people be able to spread this model as wide as you can, as wide as you want, to watch me. It's so hard to describe to people what I see during coaching because it's confidential and I can't really say it, but to tell these stories that you just watch people move stuff out of their body and have thoughts that they would never have before, and their life changes in like a really dramatic direction in 3 months, sometimes more, right? Sometimes people tack on a month, 2 months, because they just want to do more. And so it's so cool that so now I have a model that I can then design and teach people to train them how to do this with other people. I am more stoked about that than I can even say. Okay, I'm really stoked about the book. They're kind of like top things. But the book will be a part of that. So that's kind of the timing. Again, the timing! The universe knows what the fuck it's doing. I don't know why I ever question it. Yeah, so that's coming out. So I'm so excited. So if that's something you are interested in, please message me now. The sooner you do it, the better, just so I can get to know you a little bit if I don't know you, just to have you on my roster, to keep in mind, to be in touch when all this information comes out. And of course, it will be accessible in terms of financial, because, in terms of equity, this is the stuff that we're talking about in terms of equity. Like, how do you make it accessible, right? You don't charge $1,000. I mean, it might be $1,000, but you make it accessible in terms of having it be in a way that, like, I will work with you to be able to do it if it's something that you really, really, really want to do, right? I'm not going to block that financially from you, right? So we're going to work it out. If payment plans, however we want to work that out. When people go to yoga teacher training, it's so expensive. It's so expensive. I'm coughing because, coughed out a lot of money for that. Doesn't mean that's bad or wrong. However, when you set things a certain price, it does block other people from being able to do it, which then you look at the disparities in the world, and it ends up being people of color and people that don't have money and blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about. So we just got to get creative in ways to be able to do it. So that is coming. I'm so excited. I know, big announcement. I probably shouldn't announce that so early, but I couldn't help it. I think the better if you start thinking about it. Here's the other cool thing about this. You do not have to be a licensed social worker or a registered yoga teacher to do it. You know why? I'm going to teach you what you need to know in the training. You do have to be really open to cracking yourself open, because I will tell you what, the main thing about being a therapist or coach is having done your own work and holding space for others. But you can't hold space for others if you have not done your own fucking work. Okay? Boom, I said it. That's my belief, 1,000%. So I'm looking for people that are willing to really do the work on themselves, that really want to help other people in a dynamic way, that are really interested in change, in affecting things in a completely different way. None of this stuff has ever been done before. I know that there's mindfulness programs. I know that there's other stuff out there that are similar. There's yoga programs. There's not a BFREE coaching model out there. There just isn't, except for mine. So, yeah, this is pretty cool. And we'll talk more about it, but I just wanted to toss that out there. All right, you guys, I'm gonna go keep getting stuff ready for you on Monday. I hope to see you this afternoon at 3 at the Wixon Middle School for the protest, because Black lives really do fucking matter. They really, really do. I know I'm probably preaching to my own choir here, but you know, let's just keep showing up. These are the times when, you know, the people show up in the beginning, right? It's now kind of been a ways away from George Floyd and certain things, and Ahmaud Arbery, but the way you keep showing up for change is by showing up. So here's your opportunity this afternoon. If you want more information about other things that are coming up, there's always things posted in the Love and Revolution group. So that's there. And yeah. Hi, Gail. Love you too. And yeah, rock on, my friends. I'm so excited. Cool things coming. See you guys. Love you all. Take care. Have a good day.